All right, we are live today. We are going to analyze a deal in Alabama today. So, what we are looking today is checking out Huntsville. Huntsville is a city that is kind of right in the middle between Nashville and Birmingham, kind of right in the middle there. So today we found a couple of properties that were at least under 100 grand. So let's go through the process, right? So first up, the process is you find a deal. Today we have 4202 Irondale Drive Northwest 35810. If you guys remember how the process works, you Google HUD FMR, go down and scroll down to the option where you click on small area FMRs. And then from that point onwards, you can kind of simply select the state and then you can select the county. Today we're in Madison County, Alabama. And we want to get an FMR first. So for 35810, my fair market rent for a 3 bedroom is 1,500. My fair market rent for a 4 bedroom is 1,800. Okay. Then we also want to go to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, and then you want to click on market rent estimator, and that should be pretty good. You want to copy and paste the address, come in here, click on beds, boom. All right. Let's see who we got on the chat today. Hey, Mohammed, how are you, man? All right, let's underwrite a deal together. So now I have the FMRs, I have the market rents, now I have my floor, and then I also have my ceiling. Cool. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the photos really quick just to kind of gauge the condition of the home. Okay. This property has decent floors. Maybe we'll allocate some budget for painting, but that might not even be necessary. Let's see. Okay, not much here. Kitchen is decent shape. I don't see anything that's jumping out at me. Flooring looks fine, so we don't need to replace the flooring in the entire home. Let's see what I'm noticing on the outside. Siding looks okay on this property. I don't see anything that jumps out to me right away. Okay, let's just walk down the street really quick just to see what's going on. I'm just looking out for any sort of boarded up homes that might look really out of the ordinary, but this looks pretty. This looks pretty suburban. Don't see any big boarded up homes, no red flags, not a lot of trash in the neighborhood. The front lawn seems to be well kept. Okay, that's great. Now I want to look up this address to see what the crime rate looks like. And remember, a national average crime score is about 100, and I live in the current 300 zone, so this is a relatively similar crime score to where I live, so that makes me feel good about that base. So what I'm going to do is let me go and pull up the property. I just saved a new file. So this property is $135,000, okay? At $135,000, let's go to rehab calculator really quick. Actually, hold on, let me get a property tax in here since I'm already on this page. $54 for property taxes. That's pretty low. Homeowner insurance is 105, so I'm gonna add a 20% premium to it, like always. 105. I'm good, Mohammed. Thanks for asking, man. Glad you're on here and just underwriting a deal with me, dude. Makes me feel a little bit less lonely when I gotta do this every single day. All right, so I'm in Madison County. Street looks all checked out. The crime score looks all checked out. So I want to put in the rent here. So let's just put $1,800 for now because that's my ceiling rent. But down here, I'm going to write in 35810. 35810. This is a 4 bed. This is 1,800. This is 1,500. Right? Yep, 1,500. Cool. And then I'm gonna ignore the rents for a 3 bedroom on affordablehousing.com. I'm gonna grab the rents for a 4 bedroom, which is gonna be right here, just so you guys can see. 1975, 1732, 1975, 1732. And I'm noting these rents down because when I share this with my partners, they can take a quick look at, okay, what has the research yielded so far? What's my bottom rent? What's my high rent? And the interesting part about this property is, let me show you guys this. This property says seller will finance with 15% down at 9.9% interest rate. So this is interesting, right? So you can either purchase it conventionally using a conventional mortgage that uses your own income and debt to income ratio to qualify. The other option is you can just put 15% down and the seller will finance the rest. Now, why might the seller be willing to do this? Usually it's for gain, and usually that means the seller realizes that they probably have to settle for a lower price if they were to sell it for, if they were to not finance, right? Because they're making the debt borrowing process a little bit harder. So what I'm gonna do is let me go through the rehab and just try to quickly figure out what my cost is. So I usually leave about $1,500 for the roof repair because I anticipate there's gonna be some issues here. Let's do this. I don't think we need to paint the exterior. Everything looks fine. I'll leave about $500 to. I leave about $500 to clean up the backyard. Freddie, you mentioned whether or not I would be sharing the calculator. Of course, man. Just DM me your email and I email it to you right afterwards. DM me at Invest with Kent He on Instagram, your email, and I will email that to you afterwards. So 1243. I usually leave about $3 a square foot to paint the entire home. I don't think I need to refinish the home, but I might just say like, hey, what if I need to refinish the home for about like a third of this? So I'm gonna do 1243 divided by 5. Maybe assume a 20% of the flooring needs some kind of work or some kind of repairs I'm not anticipating. I don't need to renovate the kitchen. Cabinets. How did the cabinets look? I think the cabinets look fine, right? Take a quick look at it. Yeah, cabinets look fine. I don't need to do anything there. So I don't need to refinish the cabinets. Let's replace the sink. Usually I like to replace that. How do the bathrooms look? Where are the bathrooms? I typically like to replace the vanities on a bathroom so it looks a little bit more modern. And if you look at the photos, they didn't put any pictures of, except for this one. This one looks okay. Actually, the bathroom looks fine. You don't need to do any renovations there. So don't need to over renovate for this property. Just take that out. Don't need to add an extra bedroom because there's no garages. I'm gonna leave a water heater replacement in here just in case there's some issues with things that I cannot see. I assume there's no termite issues, but if there are, I'm gonna put that in my inspection report and ask for a credit. So 1260, 12688. That is my current rehab. All right. So if right now this is the scenario I got, I'm assuming $1,800 rent. I'm gonna pay 8% for property management. I'm assuming I don't need to pay anything for debt or note servicing right now. Actually, no. If he's seller financing, there definitely will be some sort of note servicing because I get to pay a third party servicer direct deposit so that the servicer will pay out either the loan or the seller directly. And you want to make sure you always have a statement associated with the property. So from that point onwards, let's go down here. We are at right around a $500 cash flow. Okay, so let's write this down. So this is assuming a, let me just pull this over so you guys can take a look at this. This is right now assuming a 25% down payment at 7.5% interest rate for the rest of it. So if I do this right now, so let's talk about 4 bedrooms. Right now, this is a $1,800, and then I want to wipe out my thing. So $1,800, and I'm gonna do 90% of that to be a little bit more conservative for my mid-case scenario. And my floor is gonna be this 1465 number. Okay, let's delete this so you guys can figure out what this is. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so this is $499. And my cash on cash return right now is 12%. Okay. And this assumes a purchase price of 135. Cool. All right. Well, if I lower this to 1620, what does that bring me to? Lower the 1620 to 8.6% return now. And this is now a $357 cash flow. And then if I lower this all the way to the floor, 1465, this is now 5.7, and this is now a 230 bucks. So after setting aside all this money for 10% every single month for repairs, assuming I pay a property manager vacancy and I'm paying 7.5% interest rate on this loan, this is now my floor. This makes me feel pretty good about it. And this helps me get over the fear of not investing. It's like, hey, worst case scenario, what might happen? The tenant loses their job, the government will still come in and pay a reasonable rent, and that would probably be 1465. But hopefully I will apply for 1800 bucks and see what happens. But this should probably be one of those deals that you follow up with the conversation to the housing authority to talk to them and ask them, hey, how do you determine what the rent is for a certain location? What amenities are you looking for comps? Because right now I have a property in the Birmingham area market and we built in a wheelchair ramp, and that's not a very common amenity. So maybe they're willing to give a little bit more rent in a situation where you have an amenity that improves the lives of your residents, particularly with something like a wheelchair ramp. So this is a financing. I'm just write conventional so you guys can follow this, right? So now what happens when I am turning this into a 15% down payment and I finance this at 9.9% amortized over 30 years? Why am I doing this? Because the seller says they will finance this property with 15% down and 9.9% amortized over 30 years. I don't know what the balloon is, but that's okay. What does that get me in terms of yield? So now all of a sudden at 1465, seller finance, 15% down, 9.9% interest rate. So this is the great part, right? So do this again. Now this is a minus 57. So now you're losing money to do this deal. This is no longer a good deal. Minus 1.2. So just because it's a crave deal and just because it's a seller finance deal does not necessarily mean it's a good deal. 66 bucks, 2.1, 2.2. What if I get my full rents for this scenario? At a full rent, this is a 6.9%, and this is now a 208. So if you don't have credit, yeah, this might be a good option for you to get a 15% down product, but at the same time, it's also not a great cash flowing deal. I would argue you might be able to deploy your capital towards another deal to get you a higher return versus the 6.9% cash on cash return. Very, very low yield, but you don't need credit, you don't need anything, and you get into this deal for about $36,000 versus before, if you were doing conventional, you needed $50,000. So that's the items that you have to kind of weigh with yourself and your investors and your partners to figure out whether or not this is something you want to pursue. For me personally, this is not a deal. The cash flow, the cash on cash return is a little bit too low. If the seller were to finance it, well, how about if I paid 100 grand for this deal? Well, okay, Mr. Seller, if you want to seller finance it to me, I'll do this deal at 105. Yeah, I'll do this deal at 105 because it gets close to the 16%. And at 105, let's do this. 105. This is still the same rent. This is now 430, and now this is 16.6%, right? 16.6%. Now all of a sudden, if I buy at 105 and the seller still wants to finance this at 15%, then it might be a different story, right? So I might just have a conversation with the seller and say, hey, 135 does not work at any of these numbers. But if you want to do the seller financing at 105, let me know. Typically they probably won't go for it, but this is just one of the items that you have to kind of stick back on and slowly follow up. So that's the underwriting for this deal in Huntsville, Alabama. Doesn't appear to be a deal, to be quite honest. So I might go ahead. Let's see. We've been underwriting for 15 minutes. Let's do one more. Let's do one more, guys. Let's do one more. I was looking at this deal in Hueytown. Hueytown 35023. Let's see. Let's look at this property. So we'll do this one too. We're just doing it together. All right, new deal, new deal. How much is this property's purchase price? This property's purchase price is 144,900. Just look at the sales price. This might be a little high, but let's get the FMR really quick. So FMR for Alabama in Jefferson County, which is where this property is. This property zip code is, let me close this out, 35023, 35023, 1550 and 1730. 1550 and 1730. So this looks like it'd be a higher purchase price versus what we just underwrote. Unless the property tax is going to be very different or a lot cheaper, chances are this probably won't be a deal. Because what am I doing now after I get so many reps in, right? You start to realize, hey, what does the purchase price need to be? What does the monthly payment need to be? What does the rent need to be for it to be sort of a deal? 131, 112. Boom. This is very much not a deal. Look at that, $50 cash flow. I didn't even update the numbers yet. 1730 is my ceiling. This is assuming a 25% down. This is 7.5% interest rate. Yeah, this is definitely not going to be a deal. So as you kind of go through the photos, let's go through the photos, see if there's any rehab here. This photo, this home looks pretty good. You might paint the place, but you really aren't doing anything other than painting. So let's lower the rehab a little bit. So we don't have any replacing on the water heater because it looks like someone's living there. So the water heater is probably fine. If I just replace one of the sinks, let's paint the plates at 1225, 1225. We don't need to do any flooring work. Let's delete that. Leaving aside $500 to clean up the landscape while we're renovating the property. We're leaving aside some money for the roof just in case there's some roof repairs. And that gets you to a much, much, much lower rehab at $84.30. At $84.30, if I buy this home for $144,900 and I get maximum rent at $17.30, this is now currently a $300 cash flow return, which in my opinion, if that's a ceiling, I don't love the deal. Because this is my best case scenario at 306, and my cash and cash is 7.6. It's not a fantastic deal. So if I lower this to equals 1730 times 0.9, my mid case scenario 1557. At 1557, this is now a $170 cash return. Hopefully you guys are seeing the patterns now, right? It's definitely not a deal because this is such a low cash and cash return number at 4.2%. So let me look at the floor. So remember, right? We go to affordablehousing.com, we copy and paste the address, and then we type in the bedroom count, and then we also try to get the market rent. And market rent is $14.51. So that's my floor. $13.97, $15.43, and then $18.23. Okay. Doesn't appear to be a deal, but let's put in $14.51. And this is now $14.51 because that's the market rent. That's my absolute floor, just in case people come back and say the rent is not reasonable. At $86, this is now a 2.1% cash and cash rent. This is absolutely not a deal. So I am not even going to bother with this. Unless for some reason the property here drops a lot more, then maybe I'll consider it. But if not, this is absolutely not a deal. And cool, that's how quickly we underwrote another property, right? How long did that take, guys? That probably took less than 5 minutes. But hopefully, if you guys are able to follow the process, let's kind of go through it together, right? First thing you do is find a fair property. Get the zip code in the county, and then go to HUD FMR, find the state, find the county, and then find the rents by zip code, by bedroom count, and that's how you underwrite the property. When you underwrite the property, then you go to affordablehousing.com because you want to understand the market rents. And within the market rents, you go to owners, you go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in the bedroom count, and now all of a sudden you will have what affordablehousing.com thinks is the market rent for these types of properties within a certain number or mile of radius to get to the 24 unit, 25 unit count. So that's how they might interpret as whether your rent is reasonable using the rent reasonableness test. So from that point onwards, here's what we will do. And then we will come in here, plug in the purchase price. I'll walk through the photos really quick. Obviously, you can refine these numbers as needed, and then you can go plug in the rents based off your assumptions. So if the rent here was 1730 again, which was the FMR, which is the ceiling rent that you get for this property. I plug in the property taxes from the Redfin estimates at the bottom. I plug in the insurance numbers at the very bottom so that I can figure out how much it will cost an insurance policy on a property. Because typically when they estimate insurance costs on Redfin, it's assuming it's a primary residence insurance policy. But if you are an investor and you are a landlord and you are renting out the property, chances are your premium is going to be a little bit higher. So I at least put in an extra 20% premium on this. I left aside some debt note servicing here just in case there's some extra monthly fees. I set aside 10% every single month for maintenance and repairs. And for my property management, I'm at 8%, and vacancy is at 3%, and that gets me to my cash flow per month and my cash and cash hold. This assumes it's a 25% down payment right now. So cool. That's the entire process. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quick. So hopefully that was helpful. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Our goal is to underwrite a deal together every single day. If you want to be a community with a lot of amazing affordable housing advocates and investors, please DM me your email on Instagram at InvestWithKentHe, and I'll make sure I'll send you guys an invite to our free Facebook group. And hopefully you guys can come in here. And my ultimate vision with our Facebook group is that we create a community of affordable housing investors where we're willing to share resources with one another so that we are a little bit less fearful when we want to invest in affordable housing, especially in out-of-state markets. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. And yeah, I had a lot of fun today. Please DM me at InvestKenny if you guys have any other questions. I absolutely love doing this. And please subscribe to our podcast on affordable housing and real estate investing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. It would really mean the world to me if you are able to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We've had some folks that left 1-star reviews there just simply because they might not have understood affordable housing. They might think it's related to guns, drugs, and drama, when in reality it's just for housing for hardworking folks just like my parents who came over from another country and didn't know the language then. So that's it. Really appreciate all your time, guys, today. I really love spending time with you guys, and I will catch you again tomorrow.